The medical station Horizon floated in the darkness of space, its white and blue exterior shining against the backdrop of distant stars. Inside, the corridors buzzed with activity as beings from a dozen different worlds moved with purpose. Dr. Zolvex stood tall among them, his blue-tinted skin and four-fingered hands marking him as Silarian. His large, oval eyes scanned the medical charts floating on the screen before him with practiced efficiency. A small frown formed on his lipless mouth as he reviewed the data. "Another human with a broken bone," he said, his voice carrying the musical accent of his homeworld. "Their calcium structures are hardly better than the twigs they evolved from." The nurse beside him, a human woman named Kate Miller, pressed her lips together but said nothing. She had worked with Dr. Zolvex long enough to know his opinions on humans. "I've treated 3 human respiratory infections this week alone," Zolvex continued, moving to the next chart. "Silarian children have more robust immune systems than adult humans." Kate finally spoke up. "The patient in room 12 is ready for you, doctor." Zolvex nodded and moved down the corridor, his long white coat flowing behind him. For 5 years, he had been the chief physician on Horizon, the largest interspecies medical station in this sector of space. His reputation as a brilliant doctor was matched only by his reputation for looking down on humans. In the treatment room, a human man sat on the examination table, holding his arm. Zolvex barely looked at the man's face as he scanned the injury with his medical device. "You humans and your fragile bones," he said, more to himself than to the patient. "This will heal, but slowly. So inefficient." The man looked confused but remained silent as Zolvex applied a healing gel and then wrapped the arm in a special bandage. "Keep this on for 7 days," Zolvex instructed. "Your body will eventually repair itself, though not as quickly as an Silarian would." He made a note in the chart and left without waiting for thanks. Later that day, Zolvex stood in the office of Station Commander Linda Powell. She was a tall human woman with gray hair and the stern expression of someone who had spent decades in command. "You wanted to see me, Commander?" Zolvex asked. "I've received another complaint about your bedside manner, Doctor," Powell said, not bothering to offer him a seat. "The 3rd this month." Zolvex blinked slowly, a Silarian gesture of dismissal. "I provide excellent medical care. If humans find my honest assessment of their biology uncomfortable, that is hardly my concern." Commander Powell's eyes narrowed. "Your job is to heal, not to judge. Your technical skills are not in question, but your attitude is becoming a problem." "I simply state facts," Zolvex replied. "Human physiology is objectively inferior to many species we treat here. Their short lifespans alone." The commander held up her hand. "Enough. This station exists to provide care for all species, including humans." Before Zolvex could respond, an alert sounded throughout the station. Commander Powell tapped her communication device. "Powell here. What's the emergency?" "Commander," a voice responded. "We've received a distress call from the U.S. Endeavor. They're reporting multiple medical emergencies, something about passing through an uncharted nebula. They're requesting immediate assistance." "How many patients?" Powell asked. "At least 40, sir. They're reporting strange symptoms they can't identify." Powell looked at Zolvex, her decision made in an instant. "Prepare the emergency bay for incoming patients. Dr. Zolvex will be the lead physician for this case." Zolvex's oval eyes widened. "Commander, surely Dr. Wren's team would be better suited." "Dr. Wren is off station," Powell interrupted, "and perhaps working closely with these humans will give you a new perspective." Her tone made it clear the discussion was over. "The Endeavor will dock in 3 hours. Be ready." As Zolvex left the office, he didn't try to hide his displeasure. Treating a ship full of humans with some mysterious ailment seemed like a waste of his talents. Humans were so predictable in their frailty. He had no way of knowing that the arrival of the Endeavor would change everything he thought he knew about humans and himself. The U.S. Endeavor docked at Horizon Station with a slow, careful approach. Medical teams waited in the large bay, ready with stretchers and equipment. Dr. Zolvex stood at the front, his tall blue form easily visible among the staff. "Remember," he told the medical team, "humans often panic in crisis. Be prepared for emotional outbursts." The airlock doors opened with a hiss. Station staff rushed forward to help as people began to come through. Many could walk, but they moved slowly. Their skin looked pale and covered with small red spots. Others were carried on stretchers, their breathing shallow. "Move the critical cases to Section A," Zolvex ordered. "The rest to Sections B and C for evaluation." Among the last to exit the ship was a group wearing the blue uniforms of Earth's Medical Corps. One man stepped forward to Zolvex. He was shorter than the alien doctor, with brown skin and dark hair streaked with gray. "Dr. Frank Martinez," he said, offering his hand. "I've been treating the patients since symptoms first appeared." Zolvex ignored the offered hand. "And what have you determined, Dr. Martinez?" Frank lowered his hand without comment. "The symptoms began after we passed through the Vega Nebula. First came fever and skin rash, then breathing problems and confusion. Our scans show no known virus or bacteria." Zolvex blinked slowly. "Your equipment is likely not sensitive enough. We will conduct proper tests here." Frank nodded politely. "I've brought all our data and samples. I'd be happy to share what we've learned so far." "That won't be necessary," Zolvex said. "You and your team may rest. We will take over now." Frank's face showed no reaction, but his voice firmed slightly. "With respect, Doctor, these are our people. We'd like to help with their treatment." Zolvex waved a four-fingered hand. "You may observe, if you wish. Now, I must begin examining the patients." Over the next few hours, Zolvex and his team ran tests on the sick humans. The Exilarian doctor moved efficiently from bed to bed, studying readings and dictating notes. Frank followed quietly, watching everything but saying little. In the lab, Zolvex reviewed the test results with satisfaction. "As I suspected, a simple microorganism that your scanners couldn't detect. We'll begin treatment immediately." Frank studied the displayed results. "May I ask what treatment you're planning?" "Standard antimicrobial protocol, adjusted for human physiology," Zolvex replied. "These patients should show improvement within hours." Frank hesitated. "Doctor, I noticed the organism seems to bind to human nerve cells in an unusual way. Have you considered?" "I have considered everything relevant," Zolvex interrupted. "Your concern is noted, Dr. Martins, but unnecessary." The human doctor fell silent again as Zolvex ordered the treatments prepared. By the next morning, Zolvex stood puzzled at the main monitoring station. The patients weren't improving as expected. Some were even getting worse. "Increase the dosage by 15%, he ordered, "and run another full scan series." Nearby, Frank sat at a small workstation, quietly reviewing data on his own tablet. Occasionally, he would draw blood samples from willing patients and run his own tests in a corner of the lab. Zolvex noticed this activity but said nothing, certain that human medicine had nothing to offer that his advanced Tellurian training couldn't provide. That afternoon, a young woman went into respiratory distress. Zolvex rushed to her side, ordering emergency measures. Despite his efforts, her condition continued to decline. In the midst of this crisis, he noticed Frank Martinez speaking urgently to Nurse Olivia Bennett, one of the station's most experienced staff members. They looked at a tablet together, and Olivia's eyes widened. "Dr. Zolvex," she called out, "I think you should see this." The Exilarian doctor hesitated, then walked over to them. "What is it?" Frank held up his tablet, showing a scan unlike any Zolvex had seen before. "I think I know why our treatments aren't working," the human doctor said quietly. "And I have an idea that might help." For the first time since the Endeavor arrived, Zolvex felt a flicker of doubt about his own approach. Without comment, he looked more closely at Frank's findings. Zolvex stared at the data on Frank's tablet. The human doctor had used a different scanning method, one that focused on the nervous system rather than looking for outside invaders. "This is unexpected," Zolvex admitted. The scans showed the microorganism wasn't simply attacking the body. It was hiding within the human nervous system, disguising itself as normal nerve signals. "That's why your treatments aren't working," Frank explained. "The body doesn't recognize it as foreign. It's like the organism is wearing a human mask." Zolvex's large eyes narrowed. "How did you think to look for this?" Frank shrugged. "I noticed the patients all complained about tingling in their extremities before other symptoms appeared. That suggested a neurological component." Before Zolvex could respond, alarms sounded from 3 beds simultaneously. Patients were crashing. The medical team rushed to help. "We don't have time for debates," Zolvex said. "Continue with the established protocol. Increase the dosage again." Frank watched as Zolvex returned to his patients. The human doctor turned to Nurse Olivia. "I need your help," he said quietly. "I believe I can create a treatment that will work, but I'll need some space and equipment." Olivia looked uncertain. "Dr. Zolvex is in charge of this case." "I know," Frank nodded, "but these people are dying. I'm not asking to take over, just to try something that might help." Olivia considered this, then made her decision. "Section D is empty. I can get you access and basic equipment." "Thank you," Frank said simply. Over the next 12 hours, the situation grew worse. 5 more patients developed critical symptoms. Zolvex tried different treatments, but nothing worked. The confident look on his face slowly disappeared, replaced by confusion and worry. Meanwhile, in Section D, Frank worked without rest. He combined his knowledge of human neurology with what he had learned about the mysterious organism. Olivia helped when she could, bringing supplies and checking on his progress. "Any success?" she asked, bringing him a cup of coffee. Frank rubbed his tired eyes. "I think so. The organism seems sensitive to a specific electrical frequency. It disrupts its ability to mimic human nerve signals." "Have you tested it?" "On samples, yes. But we need to try it on a patient." Frank looked at Olivia. "I need your help with that too." Olivia hesitated. That would mean going against Dr. Zolvex's orders. "I know it's a lot to ask," Frank acknowledged, "but I believe this will work." After a moment, Olivia nodded. "I'll find a volunteer." She returned an hour later with a young man named Steve, who worked in the Endeavor's engine room. His symptoms were advancing, but not yet critical. "I trust human doctors," Steve said weakly. "No offense to the blue guy, but his medicine isn't doing much." Frank explained the treatment and risks. Steve agreed immediately. Frank applied the treatment, a neural stimulator calibrated to a specific frequency. 6 hours later, Steve's fever broke. The red spots began to fade. His breathing improved. "It's working," Olivia said, amazed. Frank nodded, relieved but cautious. "Let's monitor him for another few hours before we tell anyone." But they didn't get those hours. Dr. Zolvex appeared at the door of Section D, his tall frame rigid with anger. "What is happening here?" he demanded. "This section is off limits. You are conducting unauthorized treatments." Frank stood to face him. "Dr. Zolvex, I can explain. Explain why you've gone behind my back. Why you've ignored my direct orders." Zolvex stepped closer, looming over Frank. "Because people are dying," Frank said simply. "And I found something that works." Zolvex opened his mouth to respond, but then he noticed Steve sitting up in bed, looking better than any patient in the main ward. "That's not possible," Zolvex said. "The level of improvement." Frank handed him a tablet with Steve's medical data. "See for yourself. The neural stimulator at this specific frequency disrupts the organism's camouflage. Once exposed, the human immune system can fight it naturally." Zolvex's anger faded as he studied the results. For the first time, the alien doctor looked at Frank Martins with something other than dismissal in his eyes. "Show me everything," he said. Frank spent the next hour explaining his discovery to Zolvex. The Xilarian doctor listened carefully, asking questions, but no longer dismissing the human's ideas. "The nebula's radiation changed the organism," Frank explained. "It gave it the ability to copy human nerve signals. Our scanners saw it as normal activity, and so did yours." "But how did you know to look for it?" Zolvex asked, genuinely curious. Frank smiled slightly. "Because I know how human bodies feel. When patients describe their symptoms, they mention things that machines don't catch. The way their skin felt wrong before the rash appeared, the odd taste in their mouths. These are things only a human would notice about another human." Zolvex was quiet for a moment. "I have been practicing medicine for 30 years. I have treated dozens of species. Yet I missed this completely." Before Frank could respond, Commander Powell entered Section D. Her face was serious. "Dr. Zolvex, I need a status report. We have 3 more patients who just..." She stopped when she saw Steve sitting up in bed, looking much better. "What's happening here?" Zolvex straightened his tall frame. "Commander, Dr. Martinez has made a breakthrough. He discovered why our treatments were failing." Powell looked surprised, both at the news and at Zolvex's tone. There was no mockery in his voice when he spoke of the human doctor. "Explain," she said. Zolvex looked at Frank, who stepped forward. "The organism hides in the nervous system, disguised as normal nerve signals," Frank said. "We've developed a treatment that exposes it so the body can fight it naturally." "And it works?" Powell asked. "It worked for me," Steve said from his bed. "I feel much better." Powell studied both doctors. "How soon can we treat the others?" "We need to make more neural stimulators," Frank said. "With Dr. Zolvex's help, we can have enough for all patients within hours." "Make it happen," Powell ordered. "Both of you." She left to check on the other patients. Zolvex and Frank worked side by side, adjusting the stimulators for different patients. The Xilarian's technical skills combined perfectly with Frank's understanding of human physiology. By the next day, 20 patients were showing improvement. Zolvex watched in amazement as people who had been near death just hours before now sat up and talked. In the lab, Zolvex reviewed more data with Frank. "Your approach was unorthodox," he admitted, "but effective." Frank nodded. "Sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places, like from a species I considered primitive." Zolvex asked directly. Frank met his gaze. "I didn't say that." "But it's true," Zolvex said. "I have always believed Xilarian medicine superior because our bodies are more advanced. I never considered that your very challenges might lead to different kinds of solutions." A nurse interrupted them with news that Commander Powell wanted to see them both. They found her in her office, reviewing reports. 42 patients improving, 0 new critical cases, she said as they entered. "Impressive work, doctors." "The credit goes to Dr. Martinez," Zolvex said. "Without his insight, we would still be failing." Powell raised her eyebrows at this unexpected humility from the Xilarian. "Dr. Martinez, the Endeavor's captain has requested you return to the ship once the crisis is over." Frank nodded. "Of course. We're continuing our mission to the colony once everyone is well." "Actually," Zolvex said, "I would like to propose something different." He looked at Commander Powell. "I believe Dr. Martinez should remain on Horizon, at least temporarily. There is much we could learn from each other." Frank looked surprised. "You want me to stay?" "As a colleague," Zolvex clarified. "Your perspective on medicine is valuable. Different from mine, but no less valid." Powell smiled slightly. "I'll discuss it with the Endeavor's captain. In the meantime, you two have patients to treat." As they walked back to the medical bay, Frank glanced at the tall alien beside him. "You know," he said, "for someone who thought humans were primitive, that's quite a change of heart." Zolvex's lipless mouth curved slightly. "Perhaps I am evolving," he said. Over the next 3 days, Frank and Zolvex worked together, treating the patients from the endeavor. The two doctors developed a routine, with Frank's human insight complementing Zalvex's technical expertise. Most patients improved quickly after receiving the neural stimulator treatment. But Frank was pushing himself too hard. Zalvex noticed the human doctor working longer hours than anyone else, often skipping meals and rest periods. "You should sleep," Zalvex told him on the fourth night. "Even humans require rest." Frank smiled tiredly. "Just a few more patients to check on." "I can do that," Zalvex insisted. "Your efficiency is decreasing with fatigue." "Maybe so," Frank admitted. "But I'll finish my rounds first." Later that night, Nurse Olivia found Frank collapsed in the lab. He had a high fever and the same red spots that marked the early stages of the illness. "Dr. Zalvex," she called urgently over the communication system. "It's Dr. Martinez. He's sick." Zalvex rushed to the lab. Frank lay on the floor, his breathing labored. The Exilarian quickly scanned him with a medical device. "He's infected with the same organism," Zalvex confirmed. "Help me get him to a bed." They moved Frank to a private room in the medical bay. His condition worsened rapidly. "How did this happen?" Commander Powell asked, standing at the foot of Frank's bed. "I thought we understood the illness now." Zalvex examined Frank's notes and personal items. "Here," he said, holding up a small container. He was experimenting with live samples of the organism, trying to develop a vaccine, not just a treatment. "Putting himself at risk to help others," Olivia said softly. Zalvex prepared a neural stimulator for Frank. But when he applied it, the human doctor didn't respond as expected. "The organism has mutated again," Zalvex realized, checking the readings. "It's adapted to resist our treatment." For the next 24 hours, Zalvex rarely left Frank's side. He adjusted the neural stimulator repeatedly, trying different frequencies. Nothing worked consistently. "I don't understand," Zalvex said to Olivia during a rare break. "The treatment works on other patients, but not on him." "Could it be because he was exposed to the concentrated samples?" Olivia suggested. Zalvex considered this. Perhaps. Or. He went back to Frank's notes, reading everything carefully. Then he noticed something, a small detail in Frank's personal medical history that he had recorded. Frank had received neural treatments years ago after an accident. His nervous system had slightly different patterns than most humans. Zalvex rushed back to Frank's room and recalibrated the stimulator one more time, adjusting it specifically for Frank's unique neural patterns. Hours passed with no change. Zalvex refused to leave, monitoring every small shift in Frank's condition. He watched the human's chest rise and fall, studied the readings on the medical devices, and made tiny adjustments to the treatment. "Fight, human," he whispered. "Show me that stubbornness your species is known for." On the morning of the third day, Frank's fever broke. The red spots began to fade. Zalvex checked the readings again and again, hardly daring to believe what he saw. "His immune system is responding," he told Olivia when she came on duty. "The organism is losing its hold." Throughout that day, Frank's condition steadily improved. By evening, he opened his eyes. "Welcome back, Dr. Martinez," Zalvex said, standing at his bedside. Frank blinked slowly. "How long was I out?" "3 days," Zalvex replied. "You nearly died." Frank tried to sit up but was too weak. "The other patients, all recovering well," Zalvex assured him. "Your treatment worked for everyone. Except you." "Why not me?" "Your nervous system is different due to your previous injury. The organism adapted differently in your body. I had to modify the treatment specifically for you." Frank studied the Exilarian's face. "You saved my life." Zalvex tilted his head slightly. "You would have done the same." "Yes," Frank agreed. "But a week ago, you wouldn't have worked so hard to save one human." Zalvex was quiet for a moment. "A week ago, I didn't understand what humans are capable of." "I didn't understand you." Frank smiled weakly. "Does this mean we're friends now?" For the first time since they'd met, Zalvex's serious face relaxed into what might have been a smile. "Rest now," he said. "We have much to discuss when you're stronger." A week later, Frank sat in the station's observation deck, watching the stars. His strength was returning slowly. The Endeavour had continued its journey to the colony, but Frank had stayed behind on horizon, as Zalvex had suggested. Zalvex found him there, carrying 2 cups of steaming liquid. "Earth coffee," the alien doctor said, offering 1 cup to Frank. "I am told humans consider it medicinal." Frank smiled and accepted the drink. "Some of us certainly do." "Thank you." Zalvex settled his tall frame into a chair beside Frank. For a while, they both just watched the stars in comfortable silence. "I've been studying your notes," Zalvex said finally. "Your approach to medicine is different from what I was taught." "Different bad or different good?" Frank asked. "Just different," Zalvex replied. "Solarian medicine focuses on precision. We identify problems and fix them with exact treatments. Your approach seems more holistic." Frank nodded. "Humans often have to work around problems we can't solve directly. Our bodies break easily, as you've pointed out many times. Yet you adapt," Zalvex observed. "When your treatments fail, you try new approaches. You improvise." "We have to," Frank said simply. "For much of human history, we didn't have advanced technology. We learned to watch, to listen, to feel what was happening with our patients." Zalvex's large eyes studied Frank with new interest. "I've been reviewing human medical history. Your species survived plagues, radiation, countless diseases. You live on a planet with extreme weather and dangerous wildlife. By all logic, humans should have gone extinct long ago." Frank laughed softly. "Many alien species think the same thing when they learn about Earth. Yet, instead of dying out, you spread to the stars," Zalvex continued. "And now, here you are, teaching a Solarian doctor new medical techniques. Is that hard for you to accept?" Frank asked directly. Zalvex considered this. "A month ago, yes. Now, I find myself curious. Your weakness may actually be your strength." Frank raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "Solarians rarely get sick," Zalvex explained. "Our immune systems defeat most threats automatically. We never needed to develop the medical creativity that humans have." He stood and walked to the large window, his reflection showing against the stars. "When we met," Zalvex continued, "I saw only your physical limitations. I missed something important. Challenges create innovation. Solarians never needed to develop certain medical techniques because our bodies handled problems naturally. Humans had to find solutions." Frank joined him at the window. "That's an interesting way to look at it." "It's more than interesting," Zalvex said. "It's a revelation. What if the most advanced medicine comes not from the most advanced bodies, but from those who had to overcome the most obstacles?" Frank smiled. "That's a very human way of thinking, Doctor." "Perhaps I'm learning," Zalvex replied. After a pause, he added, "Commander Powell has approved my request to create a joint research project. Solarian precision combined with human adaptability." "And you want me involved?" Frank asked. "I want you to lead it with me," Zalvex said. "Equal partners." Frank looked surprised. "That's unexpected." "As unexpected as a human doctor finding a cure that I missed?" Zalvex asked, with what might have been humor in his voice. Frank laughed. "Fair point." "There's more," Zalvex continued. "The Solarian Medical Academy has requested a full report on our treatment of the Endeavor's patients. I would like you to co-author it with me." Frank stared at him. "You want my name on a report to the most prestigious medical institution in the galaxy?" "Your contribution was essential," Zalvex said simply. "It would be incorrect to suggest otherwise." Frank extended his hand. "I'd be honored to work with you, Dr. Zalvex." This time, the Solarian took the offered hand without hesitation. "The honor is mutual, Dr. Martinez," he said. I believe this is the beginning of a most productive collaboration. As they shook hands, both doctors looked out at the stars, seeing not just distant worlds, but new possibilities for healing across the galaxy. 6 months later, the medical station horizon looked different. The once strictly organized sections now showed signs of innovation and collaboration. Doctors and nurses from various species worked side by side, sharing techniques and ideas. At the center of this change were Dr. Zolvex and Dr. Frank Martinez. Their joint research project had grown beyond treating the mysterious organism from the nebula. Now they studied how different species approached medical problems, combining the best ideas from each. Commander Powell stood in her office, watching a recorded message from Solarian Medical Academy officials. Their faces showed clear approval. The report by Drs. Zolvex and Martinez has changed our understanding of interspecies medicine, one official said. We request permission to send more Solarian doctors to study this collaborative approach. Powell smiled as she ended the recording. Outside her window, she could see Zolvex and Frank walking together through the medical bay, stopping to check on patients and talk with staff. Who would have thought? She said to herself, remembering how Zolvex had once spoken about humans. In the research lab, Frank adjusted a neural scanner while Zolvex analyzed data on a large screen. The Telerate patient is responding well to the modified treatment, Zolvex noted. Your suggestion to adjust for their different brain patterns was correct. Frank nodded. And the new scanner your team designed makes it much easier to detect those patterns. Perfect teamwork. A young Solarian doctor entered the lab, looking nervous. Dr. Zolvex, the emergency call just came in. A mining colony on Praxis I has reported an outbreak of unknown symptoms. Commander Powell wants us to assemble a response team immediately. Details, Zolvex asked. The colony has both Solarian and human miners, plus some Andorians, the young doctor replied. Many are sick, and their local medical facilities are overwhelmed. Tell Commander Powell we'll be ready within the hour, Frank said, already moving to pack emergency supplies. The young Solarian hesitated. Dr. Martinez, with respect, this is likely a situation that requires Solarian expertise. Humans might find the conditions on Praxis I challenging. Zolvex stopped what he was doing and turned to face his young colleague. The room grew quiet. Dr. Wren, Zolvex said calmly, 6 months ago, I would have agreed with you. I would have said humans were too fragile for such a mission. The young doctor nodded, looking relieved. I would have been wrong, Zolvex continued. Completely and dangerously wrong. Dr. Wren's expression changed to confusion. Do you know why we now save 8% more patients than before Dr. Martinez joined us? Zolvex asked. Better equipment, Dr. Wren suggested. No, better thinking, Zolvex corrected. Different thinking. Dr. Martinez taught me that what appears as weakness often conceals remarkable strength. Frank looked slightly embarrassed, but continued packing medical supplies. Humans don't survive despite their vulnerability, Zolvex continued. They thrive because of it. Their bodies may break easily, but this has forced them to develop medical approaches we never considered. Zolvex placed a four-fingered hand on Dr. Wren's shoulder. On this mission, you will observe and learn. Not just from me, but from Dr. Martinez as well. Is that clear? Yes, Doctor, Dr. Wren replied, looking thoughtful. An hour later, the medical team boarded a shuttle bound for Praxis I. Zolvex and Frank sat side by side, reviewing the limited information about the outbreak. Nervous? Zolvex asked, noticing Frank checking his medical kit for the third time. Frank smiled. A little. First major crisis since the Endeavor. We are well prepared, Zolvex assured him. And we have something we didn't have before. What's that? Perspective, Zolvex replied. Yours and mine together. The precise and the adaptive. As the shuttle lifted off from horizon, other staff members watched through the windows. Nurse Olivia stood with Commander Powell. They make quite a team. Olivia observed. Powell nodded. More than a team. They've started something that could change medicine across the galaxy. The shuttle grew smaller against the stars, carrying its crew of doctors who had learned that different didn't mean better or worse, just different. And in those differences lay the greatest strength of all.